I disagree with them, etc. And to have an engaging way to talk with people so that I may not be able to ask questions the first time. I may not ask every question that I'm guided to ask. There may not be enough time except to lay the groundwork as a context. But it's a very interesting thing because a lot of shows and journalists are kind of pressured or feel pressured that that's their job to do sound bites and chopping up bits of what people are talking about so that that's all the public gets. And it's a real honor to do the kind of work that I'm doing, not only with this and my company, the Rainmaking Company, but I'm very clear what my role needs to be in terms of being a host and how my guests are supposed to be treated, even if I totally disagree with them or I have a different frame of reference. That's something that is a free will choice. But anyway, I wanted to go back to what we were talking about just to tell you that there's testing all the time, but I really feel that my contribution as a host and a researcher and someone who invites guests is to bring illumination and light and to open up the field of the subject and expand it and to engage audiences, but not to judge and insult my guests. That's why I can talk to people of all walks of life. That has to do with the discernment that we're talking about. That's true in megafold right now in terms of what's going on, that discernment is more important. We also have more tools to destroy the planet, God forbid, like never before. So it seems like we're in this critical time. Not that the world hasn't been here before, but in our lifetime, it's a critical time like we haven't even imagined. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do.
I noticed that you wrote also quite a bit about not only other planets, but you talked about the Library of Alexandria. I know it seems far-reaching, but I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about why you wrote about that.
All right. The Library of Alexandria was spectacular in that, although, Nero burned it down, he was quite mad, had in it huge amounts of records from Atlantis. That's why it was very special. Not only from Atlantis, but all over the ancient world. But the Atlanteans, remember that the land that we called Egypt was one of the three main colonies of Atlantis. It was called Kem, spelled K-H-E-M. And Kem was much more fertile than it is now. It was kind of the R&R place for the Atlanteans, one of them. And the Atlanteans, knowing that they were going to go down, placed records of their civilizations in different places all over the world. And one of them was in Egypt. And part of not all, but part of the collection went into this library, which existed for many, many, many hundreds of years. And there were also, below some of the temples, two columns that were Atlantean columns, and that I don't put in my book, but they were Atlantean, and they were made of gold and electrum. Electrum is a metal that is 60% pure gold and 40% silver. And at any rate, I don't want to get into electrum too much, but the Alexandrian Library had different kinds of records, and these records were not necessarily scrolls at all. The Atlanteans had books, not like we have today, but they had books that were, some of them were made of a metal, a very thin metal like aluminum. That's like, it was not aluminum, but it was thin like aluminum. And they were almost indestructible, but fire could destroy them. And everything's gone, and that's why it was so valuable. It wasn't for the Egyptian papyrus scrolls or the Greek papyrus scrolls or the Persian papyrus scrolls that were there. Certainly they're very valuable and wonderful, but it was the Atlantean civilization that was so important that it would have proven beyond any doubt that Atlantis existed.
How many people would you say in the huge 38-year body of your work have you had to share about the Atlantis contributions? The Atlantis contributions or life that they're still expressing. Does that make sense?
Yes. I've done thousands of readings. I can't tell you exactly, but I would say that almost everyone that I have read for, not everyone, but almost everyone, would have had at least one or two lifetimes given to them about Atlantis. They've lived there quite a bit, but not everyone asked about Atlantean lifetimes or asked questions that would have as the primal reincarnational lifetime in Atlantis that I would say, well, there's a lifetime in Atlantis, and this is what you did, this is what happened, and so forth. And so most of us coming back here in this 21st century have had at least a couple of Atlantean lifetimes, very honestly, because it was the best schoolroom but on our planet. It existed for thousands of years, and it grew into quite a high technology, very similar to our technology now in the 21st century, and more.
How do you feel, and what do you say in response to this huge 2012 cataclysmic prophetic push on behalf of metaphysical circles and authors? And what is your take on 2012? By the way, I don't ask you that to divert us, but to know in context where you come from. How do you see it?
I've gotten a list of all the different prophecies, and these are the ones that, if I can remember correctly, that I've put down and I remember. There's Hopi prophecies, there's Inca prophecies, and there's Mayan prophecies. Sir Isaac Newton, the I Ching, Mother Shipton, although most people think that Mother Shipton never lived. The Bible codes are a big one. The Great Pyramid, the Bot Project online, Edgar Casey and Nostradamus. These are the people so far, or the civilizations, that have 2012 as a prophetic focus. There's all kinds of information that is out there, and I ask people not to watch that movie because it's not a movie, it's a horror movie. That's all it is. You know, the one called 2012.
Right.
Don't watch anything that's going to make you more upset. This is absurd. Now, there is an asteroid out there that is headed towards Earth. I do feel that it's going to be deflected.
I do too.
And I don't think we have the technology to do it, but I believe that our space brethren do. And they're not going to let this planet be shattered and blow itself up. For one very good reason, not just because of our ineptitude, but because if Earth loses its balance and is not here anymore in our solar system, it will hurt tremendously. It will knock out of balance all the other 11 planets in our system and the moons. And they can't let that happen. It's very simple. And so while I do feel that this is going to be pushed away by several degrees and it will miss Earth, we will have, because of the tremendous closeness that it will have to Earth, it will bring on a lot more earthquakes, explosions of volcanoes, flooding, and so forth. And so those people who live on any huge body of water, such as all the coastlines of the world, out there in the West Coast, on the East Coast, on the coast of any of the other countries, you're going to have major flooding. And any of the large rivers of the world. Living by water is not going to be a smart thing. Now, having said that, again, we're going to go to the righteous, those who are living as much as possible with those 10 commandments. I'm big on the 10 commandments, folks, and that is that not one hair on your head is going to be hurt. God has you on the big screen. No fear. And know that God has you in His hand, and no harm will come to you. You may be at a distance away when things happen like that. I don't know. But I do feel that there's going to be an evacuation of the Earth. and a lot